this week, Elon Musk was excited to announce Grok 3. So Grok 3 was coming out. That is his latest XAI model. And it was, in true to Elon form, going to be the greatest, best, world-changing AI model that has ever hit the stage. It was going to change everything. And so it launched, and I got a chance to watch that and watch, its performance and some of the stuff. So let me give my honest reaction to it, because if you're, maybe you don't follow all the different model releases and all this other stuff, but there's been a lot of hype building up to this, that it was going to be, basically on par with ASI. This was going to be the AGI release, ASI, depending on who you talk to. And what it did deliver, what I will say is, it did deliver on beating out benchmarks. So I'll talk about some of the things that I think are really valuable, and I'll also talk about some of my, and also really what does it mean for you as end users. So if you don't know what benchmarks are, if you're not somebody who's like a gaming nerd who used to watch all the video cards as the new video card came out, here it did this and it beat this and all this other stuff. All these AI models have these benchmarks that they're pressed against. How fast can it do different things? How well does it do things? How accurate is it with all this stuff? And then they can compare and stack rank all this stuff. And then there's also this other one that they have, and I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me, but there's a place that you can go and you can use a model, and it'll present you with two. It gives you responses from two, and you just pick which one did a better job, and you don't know which models it is. And it keeps that track, and then there's a list of which one's winning. And to be fair, Grok 3 is leading all of them right now. So it's kudos to the team for their hard work. Okay. And I say to the team of the developers, not necessarily patting Elon on the back for this, but kudos to his team, because they have developed and released the most powerful generative or omni model that is out there today, where it really seems to stand out, at least from the rankings or the benchmarks. It did a really good job in complex reasoning, mathematical skills, and coding. So, and notably, it wasn't just like a little bit better. It was significantly, I guess for me, where my mind wasn't blown by it is I've seen these ranking charts my entire life, because I'm a total computer geek and used to always sit and look at, oh, here's the new Pentium 2 processor, and here's how it ranks compared to the Pentium 1. You're like, whoa. And then it's like, oh, here's AMD. And so I'm used to watching these little charts go back and forth about which one's going to do it in these very, very structured environments. So it's better. Yes. Was I completely blown up? Like, did it have just orders of magnitude so high that you just went, this is like an AI model like no other? No, it didn't. Honestly, I was not all that impressed. I mean, I was impressed in that, okay, here's the next step in these AI models, but did it knock my socks off or blow my hair back? Not that I have any hair to blow back. Not really. I mean, overall, it was the next step in this. And if you really looked at the benchmarks and the charts that they show to compare it to, they were comparing it to like 4.0, which is not even OpenAI's latest model. Now, they might have compared it to 0.1, but I don't, if I remember right, they weren't comparing it to 0.3, which OpenAI is now rolling back. So it was you had to be really careful even how you were comparing it in the benchmarks. And that was one of the things that I was watching going, okay, you're notably better than models that have been around for a while. I mean, 4.0, if it is the one that they're comparing it to, or even 0.1, has been out for quite a bit. And OpenAI is talking about releasing 5, I think is the next one they're coming. So it's, let's just say I was not impressed. I really was not. I did not have my mind blown. I was impressed with the fact that, yeah, it is better. And yes, we're improving in the areas where these models have historically been extremely weak. And that's good. I guess, that's great. I think it'll be helpful if used in the right ways. It can be very beneficial for folks. So I don't want to knock it at all, but it was not what I was expecting. I mean, the way Elon had talked about this, I was expecting this thing to be doing cartwheels and circles and somersaults and all this other stuff over these other models. And the demo that I watched, I mean, they were doing standard stuff with a generative AI. They didn't show it in any sort of crazy use cases where you went, whoa, we've never seen AI be able to do this. Now, granted, I get, you can't necessarily pull that all out on release date. I just honestly was not terribly impressed. If you can't tell from my reaction to this, I just kind of went into it. I had a bunch of other stuff that I was planning on doing that night, and I blocked time off to go, I really want to see this, because based on the way it's been talked about, there better be something that kind of knocks me back a bit. And honestly, it didn't feel any different than when any of the other AI companies release their other AI latest models and go, ta-da. So if anything, my guess is this might just push some of the other AI companies to release their next version of the frontier model, if this even disrupts them enough to really care. Honestly, while the numbers were improved in certain areas fairly significantly, I don't know, given market penetration for some of these other ones, that anybody's going to go, oh, that's it. We were about to do a deal with OpenAI, but now we've seen Grok and it's blowing the smoke. It's tearing away from these old models. It's like, well, yeah, duh. So I don't know. I honestly don't know how the other companies are going to respond. Now, here's the one thing, though. So let me tell you, there was a little bit of a funny story in there. So you're watching the dev team sit there, the product team, and Elon's sitting there talking to him, and they're doing different examples, like, oh, let's see how it would do some research on this stuff, because it has a deep research equivalent. Like I said, maybe I've just been in the tech sphere so long that it didn't really razzle dazzle me, because I'm like, okay, you're going, point for point against your competitors. Here's what theirs does. Here's how ours do it. It's performing like you would expect. But what was really funny is one of the devs who was sitting there, one of the product team members, is like, oh yeah, like, let's do some research on you, Elon, and you're a gamer, right? Like, let's see how you do gaming. And so he starts doing a prompt on it, and you could kind of see the look on Elon's face as he's changing, because at first he's like, yeah, let's do that. And then you could see the look on his face change, and they don't let it finish, and they quickly change. Now, the reason I'm laughing about that is Elon took some major heat for, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me. He claimed to be like at the top of the leaderboards or whatever. And even in this demo, this is actually what flipped them turning off the deep research on it. Was he made a comment about, yeah, well, if you want to see how good of a gamer I am, just look at the leaderboards. And then you saw the look on his face change, and things got quiet, and then they canceled it and did a new deep research prompt. But what was funny about it is, if you don't know, there was this whole, and I know this because of some of the YouTube channels I watch with my kids. He's supposedly one of the top players. He's high ranked on this certain game. I don't even know what game it is, but it came out, or there's evidence coming out, or there was, that he was paying somebody to play as him, and actually he's not good at it at all. And they called him on it because he played publicly and he was making mistakes that somebody of that ranking just would not make. He was playing like a total noob. And the pro gamers called him out and were like, dude, nuh-uh. And then they started digging into it and, caused all this. So it was actually really funny watching him squirm after he had suggested, yeah, like, let's do some deep research on how great of a gamer I am. And then it was like, uh-oh. The articles that it's going to come across are not going to be that I'm a great gamer, but that I hired somebody to play my account, have been boasting as them, and then I actually banned the guy who called me out on it on X and all this other stuff. So it's a rather entertaining scandal, I guess, if you want to, learn more about, but it was funny watching that. Now, here's the thing that I did think was neat watching XAI's model that I think we need to see more of. There's a caveat to it, though. So one of the things that I thought it did a really good job of, that I was more impressed by this than even any of the stuff that they showed. Anything it did, there was a context window that was flying through showing its reasoning. So the term for it is XAI, or explainable AI, not XAI like his XAI, explainable AI, where it's actually producing its logic and showing you its logic. So as it's doing its research, you can see its line of thinking and its reasoning and how it's going through things. And all of that is then, you can go back and see it. So after it spits out its results, you can actually go back and look at what it did. Now, I think this is really great, because one of the things that's a big problem with AI is it's been considered a black box in the past. And so you really had no idea how it was coming to its conclusions. So there was no way to audit where it went wrong. Should we be taking this seriously? Similar to what I talked about last week with research, academic research, they have to put the limitations and all that in a good research paper. Will have all that. So you can go back and look at it and go, now, do I agree with its conclusions? What was it actually using in its reasoning? Similar to that, its AI model sits and it fleshes all this out. So if you get a weird response, you can actually go back and look and go, how did it come to that conclusion? Should I actually be listening to this? Which I think is actually an indication of a really positive thing, going back to how jobs are going to change. Maybe an analyst job won't be so much to go do the research. The analyst job will be to go back and scour through its reasoning and make sure that, is this valid? Like, did it actually do what it should do? Which would be a much more interesting job than Googling stuff. So I really, really appreciated that. Here's where the caveat comes in, though, that made me go, was Elon very smugly said, I shouldn't say smugly, because I don't want to frame him up a certain way, but he said it in a way that, was just kind of like wink, wink, nod, nod to all the competitors out there. He said, and here it's showing its reasoning and its line of thought, but don't think you'll be able to go there and see all of the details, because some of that's proprietary to the model, which on one end, I understand, because if you've seen what DeepSeek did with OpenAI and all that, right, it basically copied what they did. And it's very easy to copy what an AI model does after it's been released. So in some ways, I understand the thinking of, well, we can't put all of our AI's reasoning out there, because if we can, you could just take that reasoning, give it to another AI model, and basically train it, and within a day, have it be as smart as ours. So I get that. But then at the same time, it's like, well, but then how do you ever know if the reasoning you're reading is actually all there is to go on it? And if it's not all of it, then we still don't have explainable AI. So it does put us in this really healthy tension spot. I don't know if that's healthy, but this really tense spot of, shoot, like, we don't want to put all the details in, because that puts us at risk. But we need to, because otherwise, the explainable AI, it's not really explainable. It's not really explaining its logic. It's explaining most of it. It'd be like if you asked somebody, how'd you come to that conclusion? And they gave you a few of the big bullet points, but didn't really tell you what went on, which is fine with people, because you can hold that person accountable. You can't hold an AI model accountable. So to me, that was one of those, I loved where it was going in terms of the UX, the way it worked, to say, I think more AI models should have that built in, so that you can proof text what it's doing and actually see what it's doing. But it also doesn't necessarily help if it's only giving you a certain portion of it, because somebody on the back end then is determining, well, how much is it actually sharing? And are those other pieces auditable? Can you actually get to it? Is it just for protection of their IP? So if you're a client, you'd be able to get access to the full thing. I don't know. I don't have those details on it yet. So that's about all I have to say on Grok 3 at this point. If you're an everyday user and you have a model that you're comfortable with, should you run out and use Grok 3? No. I guess if you're in the decision making, is it worth at least seriously considering? Maybe. I've seen lots of people be like, I'll never use an AI that AI Elon's using. Like what? It's a good model. I'll say that. It's a good model. It is currently the frontier model now based on benchmarks. How long that lasts? Week, a month, couple months, maybe. I have no idea. And I think if anything, I really hope to see more of this explainable AI and its reasoning. Now, the crazy part is if you watch how fast this thing moves, it gives you an idea of how fast AI works. Some poor analyst, as that job changes, is going to be the poor sucker who has to go through thousands of pages of reasoning to try and make sense of it. This is where AI is just going to start working so fast. It's like, yes, technically a human could see what it's doing. How on earth? I have no idea. So we'll see where it goes. But that's my honest reaction to Grok 3. Do I think it's going to change the world? No. Do I think we're near ASI or AGI? I don't even know. Depending on who you talk to, that doesn't mean anything. So to me, this is just the next advancement in AI models with some functionality that I think we need more of in AI. So there you go. That's what I think about that.